Living an Intentional Life with Brian Muller. This week on the Extreme Personal Finance Show. Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of the Extreme Personal Finance Show. I'm really excited to be joined by a classmate of mine that I actually went to school with. It's so funny that our paths crossed again. My guest this
Yeah.
week is Brian Muller. He's a certified financial advisor and author. He's also a certified life coach. His mission really is to help others live a richer, more intentional life. With over 20 years of experience in wealth management, he founded Momentous Wealth Advisors right here in Woodbury, Minnesota. He's also an accomplished musician, which I look forward to talking to him about that as well.
You bet.
He's released multiple albums and singles. He's also launched the Amy Muller Foundation to support veterans. And that's interesting too. I look forward to learning more about that.
Yeah.
And he has a book coming out this summer called Momentous Decisions: 7 Steps to Better Health, More Wealth, and a Richer Life. And what I like about it too is he's got this roadmap for a transformational,
Yeah.
living your life with intention. So welcome to the show, Brian. How you doing, man?
Hey, good to see you, man. It's
Good
been
to
a
see
long
you.
time.
It has. We're just talking. It's been 20 some years, right?
Yeah, I think I skipped a couple of the reunions over the years, and
I
I think there's
have.
the 10-year. I think I went to the 10-year one.
I did. I
That
did.
was about it. I just remember breakdancing with Joe Hoffman at the 10-year, and I think I broke a couple something.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, yeah, it's kind of crazy. Like our paths crossed, and I'm really excited to kind of talk through how you got to where you are
Yeah,
today, right? You're a financial advisor with multiple designations to your name. I mean, that's super cool. Really
yeah,
helping people live that intentional life. But how this all blends together, right? Like, were
yeah.
you a songwriter and musician first and then became a financial advisor? Or just walk us through a little bit how that all comes
Sure.
together.
Yeah, I was fortunate that I knew what I wanted to do when I was in college, and I got invited to a pizza party for Edward Jones
Hmm.
who's one of my good friends. His name's Doug Anderson, and he invited me to a recruiting dinner. It was just like a pizza party at his office. And at the time, Edward Jones didn't really hire, you know, advisors right out of college. You needed to get some experience. So I went and worked at this company called Oldie Discount Stockbrokers. It's kind of an oxymoron. They were a discount stock brokerage firm. So I went out and bought like some, fancy leather suspenders, which I don't even think they were ever in style, but and silk ties and stuff. And I thought I was a stockbroker. And I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Boiler Room,
Hmm.
but that was oldie. They're literally the traders would send a message for how big of a spread there was in a stock.
Sure.
And there was an individual, we'll just call him Tony. He'd sit with his feet up on the desk, read the sports section, get the trader message. And we had this thing called commission free. It was like a commission free account. If you traded 1,000 shares or more, you'd get it commission free if you had 500,000 in assets with us.
And this was like, what year was this about?
This was 1996. This was
96. Okay.
my first gig. I got my Series 7 there. My job was to cold call out of a phone book. And when I get a good lead, I would give that to my senior broker. And of course, they were raking in all the money, and I got basically a near poverty level paycheck for like $1,500, just enough for some beer money.
Sure.
And we'd get these messages of what the spread was in a stock. And spreads were huge back then,
Hmm.
sometimes 1.5, 2 points. And I remember a stock, it was C-Cube Microsystems. They were kind of like the Intel for like a chip that went in DVD players. And it had 2 points in it. So Tony gets on the phone, sells 20,000 shares, makes 20 grand in like 10 minutes. So that was my experience. And then I got recruited for Edward Jones about a year after that, and started my first office in Blaine, Minnesota, and built up a really good office, but realized I didn't want to be in Blaine. And I left and went to the Hartford Mutual Funds for a while. Then I came back to Edward Jones and started an office on Grand Avenue in St. Paul. But I was always a singer-songwriter. I wrote my first song when I was 15, when my mom was diagnosed with cancer.
Mm.
And She wasn't supposed to see me graduate from high school, and she's still here today.
Wow, that's
But that
great.
was when I fell in love with songwriting. I would write and pick up the guitar, put it down, and then it wasn't until later, uh, kind of my second time around at Edward Jones, where I really got back into music again. I was actually in an alternative rock band for a while called Merge. It was spelled with a U. If you
Okay.
want to laugh, go find Merge. Interviews was the name of the album. Go find it on iTunes. And it was
Well,
me trying to
I'll
be a
add a
rock
link,
singer
man. I'll
guy.
add a link to the show notes for sure.
It was me trying to be this rock singer guy, which wasn't me. I always had more of this singer-songwriter kind of voice. So, but I wrote quite a bit over the years, and then I wrote my first album in 2016 called Up, Down, Sideways. It actually has some stock market references in the song,
That's great.
um, and just had fun with music over the years. It was always just kind of a side passion. And then I just got to the point when my wife Amy died in 2017, I just kind of reevaluated my life. I had 400 clients at Edward Jones. I was working 10, 12-hour days. My business was controlling me, and I needed to find a way to be a single dad and have some kind of life balance. So I after a little while, I still was at Jones for quite a bit after she passed away, but I just had this vision of what I wanted a firm to look like, what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. And it wasn't just about being a financial advisor. It was, I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to do a podcast eventually. I wanted to write a book. There was a lot of things I wanted to do that I wouldn't have been able to do at Edward Jones. And I love Edward Jones. It's a great company, but it just didn't fit this new vision I had for my life. And that's where I developed the M.A.D.E life framework, which is in my book, which is an acronym that stands for meaning, accomplishment, difference, and experiences. And I was trying to design this richer life because I felt like I had to live life to the fullest after she passed away and make everything super special. And this book just sat there, just collecting space on my hard drive for a long time. And eventually, it happened the way it was supposed to. I ran into an old neighbor friend at Jerry's last July, right around the 4th of July. I was getting some alcohol for a party, and we're chatting in the parking lot, and he says, "Hey, have you ever thought about writing a book?" And I said, "Actually, I have one
Yeah.
written.
As a matter of fact,
As a matter of fact, I do." And he goes, I work for Wiley, right? And I'm like,
mm,
"Oh, yeah, I remember you saying that." He goes, "You should send it to me." Um, and I sent him the intro and the table of contents. Next thing you know, I'm on a three-way Zoom with a bunch of people from Wiley, and they loved the book and wanted to sign a book deal. So I signed the book deal last August on my birthday, August 9th, and it'll be out this August. So
that's
that's kind of my
awesome.
journey in a nutshell.
That's awesome. What a great story. But I want to actually take a few minutes and I'd like you to share a little bit about that time that you kind of reevaluated their life. Talk a little bit about the loss of your wife
Yeah.
and what that meant for you, how you used that as this kind of pivot point for your own life.
Yeah. I was at a church service. I don't go to church every Sunday, but when you do, it always seems like there's a message right for you, right? And the title of the sermon was, "You need to use this before he removes this." And it was all about like turning your pain into purpose. And when he said that, you need to use this before he removes this, it just kind of it hit me, man. I kind of wept in the church, and I knew I needed to do something because I promised Amy, because she was a veteran, and during her fight, she voiced her opinion about the burn pits maybe causing her cancer. She was 36 and got pancreatic cancer. It didn't make sense. And I knew I needed to be the squeaky wheel. I promised that to her before she died. And the next day, I started looking into setting up the Amy Muller Foundation. But what was really hard about it for a while was we were helping all these veterans with pancreatic cancer, and we helped over 20 veterans, but not one of them made it.
Mm,
And it was like reliving my story over and over again. And so I knew I needed to find more joy in my life. And I found this journaling exercise called 3 Moments of Joy. And all you
Mm.
did was just you journaled about your 3 moments of joy from the previous day. And what it did is it started to force you to look for joy or create it. And then we started doing bringing joy into the foundation's work. We started doing a showcase, acoustic showcase with singer-songwriters to raise money. I got the band back together and played as well. And then we did a family fun day at the Mall of America. I needed to bring more fun into it because it was really, really hard on me to see all these families not make it. So that was the beginning of this this made life framework of wanting to live a richer life. And then I went out and got my health and life coach certification, not because I thought I was going to be a health and life coach. I did it for me and my knowledge, but um, it it's one of the things that allowed me to write a book about health, wealth, and life in a way that is transformative, not just jargon and different self-development hoopla. It's based upon real truths of how to create transformation and permanent change in your life.
Wonderful. Yeah. And I also know, I mean, I lost my father at a young age due to pancreatic cancer as well. And so it's hard.
Yeah.
It's a hard cancer to beat. I tell you what,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, it's like right when she got diagnosed, you go right to the, Google and, 3.4% survival rate. Your mind starts going. I always just thought, man, she's young. She can be a statistic of one. She can beat this.
Mhm.
And when we got the news that it spread through her liver and surgery was off the table and the tumor didn't shrink enough to do the Whipple procedure, we celebrated our last Thanksgiving like we knew it was our last and our last Christmas. And I thought we had more time, but when we went down to the Mayo in February, she was going to get the celiac block procedure, and then it just turned into snowball after snowball and of stuff, and she never came home. And that was a tough time, man. I
Yeah,
wrote probably 50 songs during that period of time about grief,
wow.
love, and loss, and just as my therapy, and
Sure.
read and journaled and did EMDR therapy, all the things.
Yeah.
But here I am today, stronger because of it. My kids can look back at their mom's story and know that she made a huge difference. In the bill that was passed was really because of her story, the Helping Veterans Exposed to Burn Pit Act. I mean, it could have taken 20 years for that to pass, but it got passed pretty quickly. Senator Klobuchar was involved and brought it all the way
I
to the
think I
White
saw you in
House.
a commercial.
Yeah, I was in a couple commercials with Senator Klobuchar. She's done some.
Well, again, I'm sorry for your loss, but out of that came this MADE framework, and I want
Yeah,
us to focus a little bit on that. You mentioned a little bit like what it stood for, but talk about how this can really help align someone with their priorities.
right. Yeah, I think we all struggle with the work-life balance. If you want to be an entrepreneur, trying to balance being present. And the first part of the made life framework is meaning. That's like what we're all searching for is a little bit more meaning and fulfillment or purpose in our life. And the meaning is inside that M is also an acronym. I love acronyms. I don't know why. It allows me to remember things. It's called a life plan, and each one of those is you've probably seen those spin those wheels where you kind of rate each area of your life and
Yep.
then you connect the dots. It's pretty similar to that, where you just kind of see where you're out of balance. And the whole idea of the made life plan is that you're not overwhelming your life by trying to make all these huge changes because you'll stop. You're if you get overwhelmed, that's the first thing that's going to cause you not to make progress. And so it's all about focusing on one momentous thing in each one of those areas. And you pick three of them in that life plan, and you just try to you schedule it, you put it in your calendar that you're going to do those things to try to improve those areas. You may not ever be a perfect 10,
Hmm.
in every part of your life plan, but and certainly life throws stuff at you. You can't just have a plan for life, but if you don't live intentionally and you don't like design your life, you just go through the motions. And next thing you do, you wake up and a year's gone by and you didn't make any progress or reach any goals. And
Yeah,
then
you,
the
it's
the A in the accomplishment category is just all about how do you set goals? There's a lot of stuff out there, smart goals and different things,
Mhm.
but you need to have some kind of why behind your why when you're setting goals. It can't just be about, I want to be fit or I want to look good or whatever it is. You need to have a stronger reason for wanting to accomplish those goals. And then the D is difference, and that's just all the little things you can do to make a small difference in the people in your life, the causes you care about, or even just strangers. Just how you treat people and make a difference. And then the E is about experiences. That's the easiest one to do because we all do it. We all plan vacations. We all plan concerts to go to with friends. But I don't know about you. If I'm not intentional about like planning like a music thing, going to a concert with friends, it never happens.
Yeah.
And so it's just about planning all the things that make life richer and better and having a 90-day plan where you see it all on paper and you have a vision. And a big part of the book is creating a 10-year vision for your life. And I give a framework for some questions to ask so you can kind of tell a story of what you want your vision to be. And you read this story and you even record it, put it on your phone, listen to it once a month, and it starts to like really pull you from the future
Mm.
because you have this vision of what you want your life to be rather than just kind of going through the motions with no plan.
Yeah, I like that. I like, what you mentioned earlier. It's kind of like rather than just have life happen to you, you need to take action. You need to make things happen.
Yeah.
Right. And I did something similar to that in 2021. I went to this workshop. It was actually hosted by Paula Pant from the Afford Anything podcast. And it was basically a 10-year planning workshop. And so we did something very similar. We timelined our next 10 years, but we started with the end in mind.
Yeah.
So we basically define what that vision is in 10 years. And let's work our way backwards and find out, well, what decisions do I have to make to get to that end point? So
Right.
I love that. I love that. So Brian, talk to me a little bit about, the book also kind of blends wealth, wellness, and financial health and wellness kind of together.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about why it's important to kind of focus on those pieces together.
Yeah. I think what inspired this, I actually wrote a business plan in college 25 years ago. And the business was called Life Track, and it was blending health and wealth together.
Hmm.
And so I had this vision 25 years ago, and here I'm finally kind of doing something about it
Wow.
now. Um, but health is wealth, right? Like it was inspired actually by my dad. He retired at 50 as well. And and congratulations on that. It's a
Thank
huge
you.
feat.
Thank you, man.
It's amazing to be able to do that. And you followed principles and got there. But he would go south for the winter, and he always would talk about how these old people could barely walk. They weren't able to really enjoy their wealth. And I want personally my why behind my why for being fit and healthy is not to look good. It used to be. I used to go to the gym. I messed up my back. I got two bulgy discs in my lower back because I used to wrap my knees and do all the things. But my why behind my why is to make sure I'm healthy and fit long into my 70s and 80s so I can play with my grandkids and have the energy to travel. Because I have so many clients, they have all this wealth, but they can't even travel because
Yeah.
they can't walk.
They run out of
So
life. It's not like they run out of money, they run out of life.
yeah, they run out of life. And it's sad when you see that. Most of my clients are living their version of a rich life. They have a family that loves them. We're all living a rich life, but I think life can be richer, and it only becomes richer when you have some kind of plan and a vision for what you want it to look like. And, health is the biggest component to being able to live a health with vitality and energy to do all the things you want to do. Because wealth doesn't matter without it. You look
Yeah.
at Steve Jobs, I mean, he had all the wealth in the world. He couldn't cure himself.
Yeah. I know when I left work on February of 2024, I had, some people go on trips or they travel. I had like 17 different concerts lined up on my calendar. And some of them were like festivals, right? I would go to the Aftershock Festival. It was a 4-day festival, 130 bands, 5 stages. It was like super cool. And that was the thing is I wanted to do it now while I'm young enough.
Yeah.
My knees don't hurt. I can do that stuff now because, some of the other things that, I love to learn, I love to read, I love all of these other things. Well, I can do that when I'm 70,
Right.
but I
Right.
can't travel around and go to metal festivals when I'm 70.
Yeah. Yeah. No, exactly.
Which, by the way, I just booked this week. I just booked the 2026 Monsters of Rock cruise next April. So
Oh,
I'll be on that cruise. So it's gonna be a blast. So
that's awesome.
when you talk about, like, again, like you said, like living intentionally, making sure that you're healthy and you don't run out of life, what do you think are some of those like consistent lifestyle habits, like those small things that people can do to really create the biggest impact over time? What are some things
Yeah.
people can do?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing when you look at health, like changing your health habits, most people, they set these New Year's resolutions, they go to the gym, and then the gym parking lots are dead in 4 weeks because nobody follows through, right?
Right.
I remember watching the show The Biggest Loser,
Mm.
and all those people that were on that show, they gritted it out, they changed their diet, they worked to exhaustion till they were almost puking. But all of them gained the weight back because they didn't change their identity. They never saw themselves as someone that could be healthy and fit. And so they went right back to their old ways. So the first chapter in the book is all about shifting your identity. And you do that by starting to do certain things that healthy people do. And you create this shift slowly. It doesn't happen overnight. And when you start to get this identity evidence that you are becoming a healthy person, it's not about, lying to yourself that, oh, I'm a healthy person or I'm a health conscious person. It's about starting to do things that healthy people do. And the same thing goes with wealth. Like you start to do things that wealthy people do, and eventually it becomes part of who you are and becomes a new standard in your life. And that's how you create permanent change. And it's not overnight. It takes time, but if you're committed to it, you can literally be a completely different person a year from now.
Hmm. Hmm.
And the problem is most people want quick change. Look at the weight loss drugs that are out there today
Oh,
that are just
sure.
blown up in sales. People want a quick fix, but that's not that's not the key to becoming healthy long term and have the vitality. So it's first about changing your identity and then getting rid of some of the health blocks or wealth blocks in your way, these obstacles, these limiting beliefs that have been in your way. That's the second chapter of the book. And
Oh,
then each,
I'm
yeah, go
excited
ahead.
I want to learn more about that. Talk to me a
Yeah.
little bit about those mental blocks. I think a lot of people, and myself included, we have that block in our mind that that's just the way we are. Like, how do we get over that?
Yeah, it's tough because a lot of that stuff's ingrained since childhood, right?
Sure.
It's either you were influenced by a parent or someone of influence or even a teacher. You heard certain expressions, some of the common ones, obviously, money doesn't grow on trees or money is the root of all evil. Those are some of the broad ones, but even just growing up in I don't remember there's a podcast called 50 Fires by Carl Richards, which I love. And his question is always to every guest, what is your first memory of money?
Hmm.
And man, he's had comedians on there, celebrities, all kinds of different people. And it's so interesting to hear. But your first memory of money influenced and shaped a little bit about your beliefs today. Maybe not your first memory of money, but all those little memories that you saw your parents pinching pennies or working two jobs. So there's a scarcity mindset maybe that you had your whole life.
Hmm.
And it prevents you from getting out of debt or going into debt. It causes you to live above your means. It causes you whatever wealth you get or windfall you get, you blow it.
Yeah, and some
So there's
people
a
feel as though they're not worthy of the money. Like
right.
like there's not enough to go around. Like, why
Yep.
should I get this money? And yeah, totally
Yeah,
understand.
you see that a lot with my older clients that went through the depression. They want to hold on to every penny and they have all this money and they won't spend it. Like
Right?
I'm like, spend this money, go do something for your kids, do something
Yeah.
nice. You have the wealth to be able to do this, but they won't do it because they have a little old mindset. And to get over money blocks it's again, it's not an overnight thing. You don't just snap your fingers and you have this new identity and get rid of these blocks. You just have to start doing things that healthy people do. Carry a water bottle around. Um, Put your workout clothes next to your bed in the morning and work out first thing in the morning. Put all your healthy things at eye level on the pantry. Get rid of the crap in the pantry. Clean out your pantry. Like create an environment that allows you to be health conscious. Wealth building, same thing. If your Instagram feed is just full of luxury items and ads,
All
like
right.
you're gonna have a hard time like not wanting to buy shiny new things,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Um, Set yourself up, hang around people that are wealthy, learn from them, subscribe to wealth newsletters, listen to podcasts like Heavy Metal Money,
That's right, man.
you know?
It's funny you say that because like there are times. So like for instance, I'm in the Lakes area business association. I'm in this group, and the first time I would go, we go to lunch every Wednesday, and again, it's you have all walks of life in this group. You have business owners, business leaders, city leaders. And I remember one of the first times, I pull into the parking lot where we were having lunch, and there's 7 Teslas in the parking lot. And I'm like, oh, I don't belong here. But I'm like, no, I want to be around these people. You know,
Right.
and it's the same thing like when I'm playing in the band, right? Like, I'm like, they're so much more advanced than me. I'm really challenged trying to catch up to them or to learn this new track, this new song,
Yeah.
whatever. And again, I spin it around saying, well, no, I want to surround myself with those people that are good at that, right?
Right. Yeah. I don't know who originally coined the term, but you're the average of the
Yep,
5 people you hang around the most, right? Show me your friends and I'll show you your future. I believe
absolutely.
that.
I
I
do.
believe that.
I do too. Absolutely. I do. If we look at so the book that's coming out this summer, Momentous Decisions, is there a decision that you're focusing on right now? What's something that you're focusing on right now?
Man, that's a good question, Chris. The biggest decision, that I made was to leave Edward Jones and
Mm,
and have the courage to do my own thing. I made that decision 3 years ago. I didn't leave and start my own firm until a year and a half ago, but I left Edward Jones. That was a really tough decision. Those were all my friends. Those were my family. They were there for me during Amy's battle. But right now, the biggest decision biggest momentous decision that I think I need to make is whether I want to build Momentous Wealth Advisors into something bigger than just me. Because right now it's me and a team of support staff. I want this simple, happy life.
hmm
I don't know if I want to bring on other advisors and deal with managing people, but I have a framework that is unique. The M.A.D.E Life framework is starting to be instituted with new clients where I'm doing some type of life coaching as well as health coaching and incorporating that into their financial plan. And it's something that not very many people are doing. I don't think there's any firm out there that's doing all of that. And so I think I have something special. So I have to decide whether I want to build this into something bigger than me or just continue to do what I love to do and have the freedom to play pickleball 3, 4 days a week and work out and travel and all this stuff. So
Right.
that's my biggest hurdle in my head and the biggest decision I need to make this year is do I want to build this into something
Sure.
bigger?
Sure. I often get asked the question too, when I'm investing in real estate. I've been investing in real estate now for the past 10 years. And, if I'm looking at a new opportunity or a new deal, someone will say, well, when are you done? Or when's enough enough? And I'm like, well, if I enjoy doing it, like I just like doing it for the fun of the game, right?
Yeah,
I don't necessarily look at, do I need to grow this into something big? So like to your point, maybe you just keep doing what you do because it's fun,
yeah,
right? Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. No, I like that.
Yeah, I
Um,
see I see some opportunities potentially with something that I always loved. I still remember the kid in speech class that told me after I did a speech, you're going to do something with this one day.
that's
And
awesome.
so I would love to get on stage again and do some keynotes and talk about the principles in the book. I can see that in the future. But again, I don't want to travel around the United States doing keynotes and take time away from my family.
Yeah.
It's all about this balance, right? And this richer life. But I do want to make some kind of an impact and have some meaning, more meaning in my life when it comes to that type of thing. Really, it's my number one value in my life is family and experiences. And anything that gets in the way of that, I'm going to say no to.
Sure. And that's cool. It's cool that you've already acknowledged that and you have the flexibility and the strength to say no, because a lot of people wouldn't. So that's awesome.
It takes it takes a little bit sometimes. You just want to say yes. You want to be a yes man like Jim Carrey.
That's right. That's right. So if we want to leave, so the listeners and those on YouTube right now, if there's like one takeaway you want them to leave with, either from the book or not, but like what's that one takeaway you'd like them to leave with today?
I think the biggest thing, it's tough to narrow it down to one, but just know that there is more possible. We all know there's more possible for our lives, but until you believe it's possible for you, things will never change. You'll never reach your full potential. And I think getting that mindset that something better can come about in your life, whether it's wealth building or becoming healthier, it is possible for you. No matter what your genetics, no matter your past, no matter what mindset you used to have, you can rewire that, and you can achieve anything you want to achieve if you put your mind to it. And that's the biggest thing. You have to, and whether you start reading self-development books or you do some inner work, it comes down to figuring out it's possible for you, and that's when things change.
Right on. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. I want to make sure, where can people find more about you, more about your book? Where should people go?
Well, the podcast is Wealth Decisions by Brian. It's on Spotify and Apple and all the other places. I am starting to do YouTube videos as well. Wealth Decisions by Brian on YouTube. The Momentous Life on Instagram, and then Momentous Wealth Advisors /book. You can get all the information on the book and the principles you'll learn from reading it, and some of the endorsements from some well-known authors on that page as well. So it's pretty exciting. That's 15 years in the making, and I'm really excited to get the book out to the world and see what happens.
Awesome. Well, Brian, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. It's been super fun to catch up. And I want to thank everyone else for listening. Please like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. We really appreciate it. If there's anything you'd like to say, please leave a comment down below. And we'll see you next time on the Extreme Personal Finance Show. See ya.
I wish I still had my mullet.